as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you for the gentle reminder, Harris. Thank you. I do have one other introduction. I'm going to delay that introduction. You may see another face on here, Sarah Summers, a very special person. I'll build the suspense though, and introduce her in just a short while. What I had hoped to do today is to give you some information. I want to answer any questions that you might have. I want to talk to you about this really cool program that we've built, and I want to share with you pieces and parts. I don't want to just talk at you though. I want to pull you into some of what we actually do within this program. And so I'm going to go ahead and start with just this real quick exercise. I'd ask you to take a look at this poem that I'm about to show you. This poem was brought to my attention by a really talented, smart woman who I'm lucky enough to know as my colleague and friend, Rebecca. And it just kind of made a shift in me. I think it also encapsulates our approach to creating this program. And so take a look. This program that we have created is really about creating or building a space where women can come together to learn from and with one another. And I think this poem so beautifully embodies our trying to do that. I want to also ask you at this time to just sit with this question some. When you think about this poem, what person stands out to you as being someone who has made some sacrifices that you have been able to move forward and stand up and step in a bit more strongly? Who is that person? Who is that person for whom you're grateful? When you think of that person in your world, who might that be? And if you're comfortable, it'd be really great to have you put that in the chat pod. Mother. Yeah. My grandmother is, I wouldn't be here today without her. Look at that maternal influence is strong. Anybody else comfortable sharing? Thank you, Constance. So good to see you here. This poem and this reflective exercise is really a perfect example of what we do within the program. We think about the influences that have been part of our world, and we think about how we can empower those around us. And I couldn't think of a more perfect example of somebody who also embodies this poem and for whom I am so grateful. And that now leads me to my introducing one of our 2022 spring cohort participants, Sarah Summers. Sarah, we're so glad you're here. Please tell us a little bit about you.
All right, well, thank you. Thanks, Jen. I'm glad to be here, and I'm really glad that I get to participate as one of the spring cohort members. So a little bit about me. I am a squadron commander in the Air Force. I'm a lieutenant colonel. I've got about 16 and a half years in. So my current unit, we've got about 130 folks. About half are with me at Patrick Space Force Base in Florida, and half are scattered around the globe. Our job is to maintain seismometers that detect underground nuclear tests. We're the United States is part of a treaty to not conduct nuclear tests. So as part of that treaty responsibility, we monitor that. So I like to say that our job is to prevent nuclear Armageddon, which is pretty important, I think. So that's what I'm doing now, a little bit about my history. I came into the Air Force as an aircraft maintenance officer. I had about 130 folks working for me as a second lieutenant, 23 years old, right out of college. And our job was to maintain the E3 AWACS, which is kind of a flying air traffic control tower, essentially. I did that for about 4 years with various positions. I had about 215 folks at kind of the height of my time in aircraft maintenance, and it was very directive. Our job was to get planes in the air, and so it was pretty much all enlisted force that I led, and so we had our schedule, we had our broke jets, and it was a very directive way of getting the job done. After that, I went to the Air Force Research Laboratory, which is in Dayton, Ohio, and here I was, maybe 28 at the time, something like that, and I was a deputy branch chief leading a bunch of PhDs. I do not have my PhD. So it was a very, very different leadership experience. I can't be directed with a bunch of PhDs because I don't even understand what they're doing. So it was a very collaborative environment. What are you working on? How can I help you? How can I support you? So it was pretty much a 180 switch of how I led that organization compared to how I led as an aircraft maintenance officer. And after that, I went to test pilot school, became a flight test engineer, and went to a flight test organization. And what I found there is I had a mix of directive leadership and collaborative leadership. I had folks working for me who had been doing flight tests since I was in high school. So again, I'm not going to tell them anything that they don't already know, but I was responsible for the schedule, for assigning projects. So working with them in a collaborative environment, but it's also an operational environment. So when we're up in the air and we're conducting tests, I was a test conductor, you go back to that very directive style of leadership. So throughout my career, I've balanced between a directive style of leadership and a collaborative style of leadership. After flight tests, I went to MIT, where I got a degree in program management and engineering. And then later on, I ended up at the Pentagon, where I was General Brown, who's the Chief Staff of the Air Force's aide-de-camp. So that was an awesome experience for leadership. Every single day was a leadership lab, getting to see him in action, see an incredible leader, and see how he handles a variety of situations. So that's a little bit about me and my leadership experience, things that have helped me along the way. One is I tend to be a very introspective person, and I go back and think about, various situations. Did I handle it well? Could I have handled it better? Why did I have that type of reaction? That's just kind of me naturally, as a little bit of an introvert. What I have found throughout my time is when I take time out of my very busy work day, whether that's through an education program that I'm in, or just have a commute and driving into work every single day. If I take time to be introspective, it gives me that opportunity to grow and learn and continue on my path. So my educational opportunities have been very influential in that. And then the other one is peers and mentors, and I think everyone would probably agree that's a huge thing that helps, bouncing ideas. Hey, have you dealt with a situation before? Getting advice, that type of thing, whether it's from your peer group or from mentors that you have in your organization. So what the law program has done for me is it's another opportunity for introspection, both through the coaching opportunities and what that we have, and I'm sure Jen's going to go into a little bit more of the structure of the course, but there's some coaching opportunities that allow you space to work through the various challenges that you have. And then the other one is the peers. And what I found fascinating in this program is that we've got people in the FBI, we have consultants, we have people in city government, animal welfare, we have people from a variety of industries, and yet and various age groups as well, from folks who are still going through school, to people who are on the about to retire, and everywhere in between. And we all have the same challenges, regardless of industry, regardless of experience, which I thought was pretty fascinating. And it showed I'm not alone, I'm not crazy with the various challenges that I have. And that to me was very validating. And it also gives me the opportunity to learn from my peers how they have gone after those particular challenges. So that's been a really awesome opportunity there. So I guess I'll stop there. And if you all have any questions, I'm gonna hang out and listen in. But Jen, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks. So I feel like actually we could just stop after that. I mean, Sarah, I'm so grateful. Thank you for all of that. And Sarah shared a little bit about her personal experience and a couple of the components that we've included in law that have that have stood out to her. I want to walk you through some of those components. And please, if you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear those. Put those in the chat pod. Even better, put your voice into the room. We are working to create, and we continue to work to create a program that is rooted in some of our guiding principles, and we're finding a variety of ways to do that. So I want to share with you first some of our guiding principles. Take a look at what you're looking at, or what you see up here on the screen. This is designed to be a highly interactive, a highly inclusive program, and we work to help women develop their unique voice, to address longstanding and traditional barriers, to help create opportunities where we can learn from and with one another, to build that network. Just as Sarah mentioned, it's the mentors, it's the peers where we can do such great learning. And so we work to carve out opportunities for that to happen. Everything we do is rooted in these principles, and that leads us to the entire experience. We don't want to be just another leadership program. This really is an experience from the second that you submit your application to the onboarding and all the things in between. We're getting ready to even talk about graduation and what that looks like, that celebratory event. It's about building community. And so here are some of those components that we offer in an effort to do all of those things. I'm not going to read to you each and every one of these. I am going to, though, kind of unpack it with you and highlight some of these various components. As I'm doing so, just keep in mind, each of these components are really centered around values-driven leadership. It's about learning about self and self-mastery. It has to include learning about self, because as you all know, we're on a constant learning journey. There's always opportunities for us to learn. And then what we hope that you will do with us during the program is to practice and build towards that self-mastery. We focus a lot on emotional intelligence, really being aware of how you're showing up and what that looks and sounds and feels like to the world around you, how that's working out for you. All of those experiences that you see up here on the screen, we really try to center around some of those foundational areas. Now, to just get a little more granular, let me talk to you a little bit about some of our program modules. The program has within it 3 full-day programs, and here are some of the topics that we take on in those modules. We take on these topics and we talk about what are these? What does this mean? And when we talk about negotiation, what does that mean? Not only do we talk about what is this? We talk about why it matters. And bigger than the what and the why, our program really it looks to get to the how, the so what, now what. All right, so what do I do with all of this? How do I move this forward? And so we want that insight to be put into action. And so we offer you tips and activities, tools, frameworks in order to touch each of these spaces as you navigate this leadership journey that you're on. I'm going to pause. Happy to answer any questions that you might have for me or Harris, Rebecca, or even for Sarah Summers. I like to say Sarah Summers because it's the alliteration. Sarah Summers, Sarah Summers. Any questions so far? Any comments? Not quite yet. Okay, great. In addition to each of these full day modules, what we also offer, and Sarah even referenced, is the coaching components to the program, and we do that a couple of different ways. One of those is through group coaching. We do the group coaching where we break the fuller group into smaller, more intimate groups so that we can take on some of the topics that we discussed and explored in those modules, but do so at a smaller group level to have some more personalized conversations to bring out some of what each of our participants are currently facing and allow space to all support one another. And so there's a group coaching component. There's also a peer coaching component, and this is really designed to not be facilitator led. So it's, I don't show up, or Rebecca. It's really the participants come together on a time where they have found mutually agreeable. We give them a support guide, and kind of see a snip of that there, a toolkit, if you will, and those conversations continue. Because remember, one of the cornerstones of the program is really about community building, and so this is another great opportunity to do that. Now, the peer coaching and the group coaching is in addition to the one-on-one coaching. So each participant is partnered with an ICF credentialed coach, and you will then get that one-on-one time with your coach. Some of that coaching is to address and debrief and explore some of the assessments that we have built into our program. I want to tell you a little bit about those in just a moment. The additional coaching sessions are really designed to discuss and explore anything that's meaningful and relevant to the participant, and so we open that up for helping support these women however they best need supported. How can I best support you is always what I want to start my coaching session with. And so we take on a variety of topics that might be meaningful and relevant at that moment. Now, the assessments, as I mentioned, are part of the program and part of the coaching that you'll get one-on-one. Here are the assessments that we use in our program. Some of you may already be familiar with these assessments. The EQ 360 is an assessment that we offer. It's a multi-rater tool. If you're not familiar, we move beyond your self-assessment and we invite outside raters into that process, allowing you to better understand what it looks like, sounds like, feels like when you show up and engage with the world around you. And that feedback then that we take in the form of the results there allow us to help you identify those potential growth opportunities and certainly those strengths that each of these women bring. Also included is the drive assessment. And if you're not familiar with the drive assessment, let me just tell you a little bit about that. This is an assessment that works to essentially capture and to quantify your attractiveness to what we call drivers. And really, these are habits and attitudes and values, illuminating for you where you might be pulled, what might be energizing to you, and where you might tend to push back on or could be draining or exhausting to you. The drive really does help us better understand the why behind the what we do. So it can be a really powerful tool to provide additional insight on that leadership journey. I'm going to pause. Sarah, any thoughts that you might have about either of those assessments? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm going to.
No, I was familiar with EQ 360, which is a great tool to hear from, you know, again, 360 all around. So that was really useful. I definitely got some good information, good things to think about with that. I had not heard of Drive before, and I found that particularly interesting because it definitely matched kind of my self-assessment, but it gives you things to think about. So if you are this way, here are some things that you can think about to make sure that if other people have other drivers, that you're able to communicate with them, that you're able to work through problems, because my driver may not be someone else's driver, and if I assume that's their driver, we're probably going to be, crossing our wires or having some frustrating communication opportunities there. So that one was interesting to think about, and how it affects my interactions with whether it's my peers, supervisors, and the folks that work for me. What's their driver, and am I doing the right things for them in relation to their drivers?
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. We love the combination between the two because, just as Sarah mentioned, it's really important to understand how I might have different drivers than other people, and it's really important to understand how some of those drivers influence the choices we make, which gets us into the EQ space, because EQ is really about choices, attitudinal, behavioral, emotional choices, and so the two together kind of are a powerful package. The other things that we offer in this Leadership Accelerator for Women program are opportunities to get to meet, in addition to just the participants as part of the program that are very cool cats. We also bring in outside speakers. And so a big part of this, our time together has been to identify certain speakers that might be able to add some extra flavor, to color our conversations, to get us to think. And so here are just a few of those speakers. And Rebecca, I'm going to put you on the spot now. Any thoughts you would have about these guest speakers and what you might share?
I would offer this, Jen, that like our participants, like many of you here today who logged on and expressing interest, they're from a variety of industries. And it's so fascinating to hear that, yes, Mary Rose McCaffrey, who was working for the CIA, and just the challenges that she faced in that role, how that translated. It was like, that sounds familiar. And even though it looks different and it might manifest differently in my workplace, we found the common ground that we all shared, that the struggles and the challenges and the strategies across industries that work. And so it was fascinating to hear from Mary Rose and from some of these other women who are from different disciplines, different industries, but they brought such rich insight. And so I was busy taking notes with each of these women, and we have some more coming up before the end of our spring session. But I have learned so much from each of these women, their unique insights, their unique experience that they bring, some from corporate, some from nonprofits, some from just an industry completely different than my own. And yet the leadership principles, the truth remained the same, and it translated. And so despite whatever industry you may be coming from, there is something here for you. There will be a speaker, there will be a topic that speaks directly to you. So that's what I would add, Jen.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. Thanks so much. From each of these speakers, and we still have some to go. So Sarah Summers, you haven't maybe even heard a couple of these yet. I've stolen. I tell people all the time I steal, not from homes or from stores, but I steal thoughts and ideas and perspectives. And each of these women have given me so many things to steal, and so I love it. So part of the program is to just make a connection with other leaders beyond our cohort of participants. And Sarah, before I move on, anything that stood out to you from any of our guest speakers thus far?
I think they're incredible women, first off. So they're people that we can learn from and grow from. And I agree with Rebecca that even though their fields may be something completely different, you can still take something from it. I found Stephanie Wade fascinating in the exercise that we did with her. I hope that continues on in the next cohort. I won't spoil it for you all if you guys decide to join, but it was a fascinating way to look at leadership through art, and not something I would have ever thought to do. So that was really neat.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I agree. I've known Stephanie for many moons, and I was still taken with the activities and the guidance she gave us there. And I look at even the world around me a bit differently after that. So I'm very lucky that she was able to do that. So our guest speakers, one of the other things, and so let's keep on keeping on, my friends. We work to build community, as I've already mentioned. This is a community we want to build that withstands the cohort time. I sure hope it's not temporal. I've already warned Sarah Summers that she's going to be stuck with me for a long time at graduation in June. That doesn't end. And I think so many of us have not only met some really amazing colleagues, but I think we've developed some really great friendships. And so with that, I couldn't be any luckier to be a part of something like that. To help do that, we've started adding some happy hours, and again, just looking for other ways that we can come together with somewhat structured prompts and discussion points, but really it's in an effort to build that community. And so any questions about any of these different components, these different layers that we've added? I'm going to pause again. If there's anybody that has any questions or comments. Okay. Well, then let me tell you a little bit about some of the commitment and some of those expectations that come along with your saying yes and opting into a program like this. And so Lillian, I'll pay you later for that question. What is the overall length of this program? What we have designed is about a 6-month program, and up on the screen you see some of the granular details around that. You should plan on you're spending about 6 hours-ish each month. Some months will be a little bit longer than that if we have a fuller day module. Over that 6-month program, though, it's about 55 hours, and that includes those modules, the one-on-one coaching, the group coaching, the peer coaching, these guest speakers, that community building, those efforts, and so that's about where we are. We look for additional opportunities, so it might be above and beyond, but those would be more optional if you don't have time to come to a happy hour or something like that. There is some pre-work that needs to be done. It's at the beginning of the program. We would ask that you just share a little bit about yourself through the application process. There is an LMS, a learning management system that we use, where all of those modules will unfold and give you some prompts that you'll have to respond to. And certainly the assessments take a little bit of time as well. Anything you would add, Harris, here?
No, I think I think the point around like flexibility, in some months it'll be a little bit more and some it'll be less is just really important to mention. And the goal is to make sure that people are engaged and utilizing all the different resources without overwhelm. And so everybody here has a full-time job they spend a lot of time with, but really the goal is to make sure that people are really getting entrenched and meeting the other women in the program and the facilitators and things like that. So that's the only part that I'd add.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And so the program, this is the structure. You have some additional information on the components, those different elements that we've built into to this program, the commitment and expectations. And you may be wondering, well, how do I register? How much does this cost? All of those good things. And I'm hoping, Harris, my slide is up to date enough. The one that you gave me. Tell me if this is wrong. So here we go. It is, let me see, I think I have something more. There we go. We have created this program, and the investment that we are asking is the $10,000, but it's a discounted price for this first cohort and even for our second cohort. And so we will work with you on arranging how that would be best to support the payment. And Harris is very happy to do that if you need any support in that way. Anything else, Harris, that I should say about this slide?
Yeah, I was just gonna say
mine.
No, I was just going to say we have an application process. We want to make sure that we have female leaders from a variety of different backgrounds, a variety of different levels. And so we take that pretty seriously. And so we want to make sure that we have people from nonprofit and from corporate and from government and from the military. And so Sarah kind of discussed that in what she was talking about, but we believe in the value of different levels of leadership and different types of organizations. And so it is an application based. We're hoping for applications to be completed by the end of June, so we can kind of make decisions around the middle of the summer timeframe for a kickoff in early September.
Great, thank you so much. At this point, my friends, we would love to answer any of your additional curiosities, if you in fact have any. I know Sarah Summers would be delighted to answer your questions because she said so at the beginning. So if you have any even leadership questions for just Sarah, put those out into the room. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like to put your voice into the room.
Tanya asked a good question around how do you decide which cohort an individual is in, and so I'll kind of take a stab at that. So we had our first cohort that's wrapping up here at the end of June here, and then so this will be our second cohort. So we run one cohort at a time. We're going to cap it at 12 female leaders as part of the cohort, and that kind of gets to my point of before. We want a variety of different levels of leadership, and we also want a variety of different types of organization, female leaders from a variety of different types of organizations. So that's how we decide that. Tanya, does that answer your question? And feel free to hop off mute and expand if that would be helpful.
And Tanya, I don't know that you asked this, but it made me think about this. Within the cohorts, we do have those smaller groups, either for the group coaching or for the peer coaching, and we do divide folks up. But what we do is we mix that up each time. So you're not with the same group throughout the program. Rather, we want people to really get to know one another, and so we change that up every module. Any other questions for any of us or for Sarah? All right. Well, I'd like to leave you with this. I asked you all at the beginning to think about about a woman who stands out to you, who you think of, for whom you're grateful for where you are right now. And for those of you who maybe haven't told that person, if they're still with us, maybe you haven't told them of the influence they've had, the impact that they have had, how their sacrifices have made such a difference. I encourage you to do so. And maybe even think about some others in your world where you might be able to extend that same form of gratitude. Empowering women empower women. And so let's go forward and keep on keeping on, my friends. I sure hope our paths cross again. Let us all know if you have any questions as you move forward, making this decision. Thank you all so much for carving out the time to be here. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.